Welcome to this video on the Zen Word channel. My name is Sri Sadguru Buddha Rawa Bhagwan. Today's video we will discuss the Naga serpents that were in the lands of the Aztec and how the snake serpents, the Naga, come into the story of the Aztec. So the Nagas, the snake gods, the snake deities, the snake beings, are known also in India. Okay, and how do you know a Naga? A Naga is a talking snake. So you already see there's a little bit of difficulty with that concept in some other cultures, some other religions where that's a little bit scary, right? So a Naga is a talking snake. So a specific type of snake that is a talking snake. And the reason it is a talking snake is because a Naga being incarnates into the snake. Okay, so the Naga becomes a talking snake, which is able to talk in the voice, in the, and observe and learn the language of humans around it. Okay, so it becomes a talking snake. So the Naga is an incarnation of a Naga being, okay, which is a system that exists at the level of the system, okay, and we've talked a lot about Nagas on this channel in details, okay, about Nagas and Naga eggs and development with a yogi and parampara and all this. So the Nagas are known in cultures of Sanatana Dharma in India, for example, as Indian gods, and many shrines and places of worship have places dedicated to the Nagas, okay, because they are known basically in their connection to spirituality and progression and city power and all these different things, okay, so they are known as Naga gods, Naga deities, okay, Naga beings, Naga systems, okay, who exist and have their life as systems. And sometimes the Nagas, they incarnate into the body of a snake being. Okay, and this is an incarnation of a Naga. Okay. So different cultures have had incarnations of Nagas, which have visited them. Okay. There's a whole civilization of incarnated Nagas that exists. Okay. And it's rare that they come to this level of existence, okay, but it's happened in the past. So what happened, for example, with the Nagas in the Aztec lands, right? In the Aztec kingdom of the people of Omtec, right? What happened with the Aztec is that they were basically visited by Naga beings. So at one point in the development of the people at that area in that land, okay, there was a Naga ship that landed, okay, and as the Naga ship landed, incarnated snakes that had their ship, okay, and they landed and they were basically escaping from a conflict of their own, basically, that they were inside as incarnated Nagas from coming for where the Nagas incarnate. Okay, they came to Earth and they landed in that area where the Aztec lands are, and basically out came sentient snakes, right? So speaking snakes, okay, and it took some time for them to establish themselves in that area, and they established themselves as part of the culture of that area as basically the occupants of the jeweled throne. So there was the emperor that sat on the stone throne, the human emperor, and then there was the jeweled throne, which was the throne where the snakes sat on, right? And then there was the divine throne on which the god Omtec sat on, the god of the Aztec. So the incarnated Nagas are connected to the story and pantheon of the Aztecs, and they come in the storyline of the Aztecs and are the establishment of the culture, and where the Aztecs suddenly started becoming more advanced until they started hiding their development also from the people around them, right? So there was the jeweled throne with the Nagas. So the ship of Nagas landed, right, and they became known, and there was the leader of the ship, right, which became the king of the Nagas, right, in Aztec lands. And there was a time when different Naga snakes inhabited and sat on the throne. Okay, so there was the whole royal family of the snakes, okay, of the Nagas that sat on the jeweled throne of the Aztecs. And there was their leader, their king, basically, and his bride, and his children, and all these different things that came after, right? The whole lineage of the snakes on the jeweled throne of the Aztec. And that's why a lot of people around them worried and didn't really like the Aztecs too much, because there were rumors that they were snake worshippers, right? And people were worried about that, even their neighbors and all that. And the sacrifices didn't help probably as well. So, right? So basically the snake sat on the jeweled throne. And there was the whole family of them, and there was their lineage, and the story of their lineages were recorded, all of this into stories of the Aztec people. And all this was destroyed when they sought to hide all their knowledge, knowing that their empire, their civilization would fall, to hide it from those who would come, to protect their stories and all that from being known by others. Because in knowledge of other people's secrets and all these things, you can get power as well. Right? So they're very conscious about that. So basically what happens is when they landed the ship, okay, there were different types of snakes that landed and different specializations of snakes. So their leader was a snake that was a leader, right? So from there they come to leading, and basically the establishment of the Aztec Empire and in those lands and all that came from the leader and the leader's capacity to establish and, to plan for the expansion and all this and establishment of a culture, right? So with the snakes came the culture as well, right? All the knowledge of these incarnated Nagas came with them. And Nagas come in different specifications and specific qualities, right? And specific types. So they're really good at one thing usually, So you have leader Nagas, you have other types of Nagas, and they have powers related to their specialties, right? That they can implement, right? So they establish their powers and use their powers with regards to their specialties. But what happens is when these snakes landed in the Aztec lands, they didn't land with an engineer. Okay? So they had different types of specializations with the snakes that landed, the royal family that landed, right? Of the Nagas into the Aztec lands and establish the culture and all this there. With the people that accepted them, and they accepted them in return, and it was a reciprocal relationship, right? Well, then they basically did not have an engineer, so they landed without an engineer. So they had different specializations, including all those specializations were all the mystical specializations and all these different things, and all this different knowledge that came from the Nagas, as the Nagas basically established themselves on the jeweled throne of the Aztec, right? So the Aztecs were a Naga worshipping, if you want to say it in that way, although they worshiped their gods mostly, and the Nagas were more like rulers, right, that came from the gods, right, and brought knowledge of the gods to the Aztec people. Right, so the Aztec people have that knowledge of the gods, which are the knowledge of the Tej, the Aztec pantheon of gods and those gods. So it's all one big ecosystem in the story of the Aztec, and the establishment of their civilization, and the time that it lasted with the gods that were there, the snake gods. But one thing is interesting also is that, as the Naga gods bred and have children, the Nagas on the divine throne, the jeweled throne, sorry. As they had children, well, their children were reduced versions of the Nagas, and they became reduced versions that were flawed in many, many ways. And anyways, it led to also the children could not breed as well. So basically, it was part of them being in this part of reality here and all this, from where they had come, and the children could not breed and were reduced in power as well as the generations went. So basically, it led to basically an extinction of the Nagas on the jewel throne. And then in the story of the Aztecs, every period of time there would be a Naga that would come, right, as part of the story, right, of the Nagas. And that was prophesized in their story as well. So it was prophesized that a snake would come, and a snake came. Okay, and this snake came from the nature actually, so incarnated into a snake from the woods, from the nature, from the hills, which basically learned human language from listening to them, and basically came into a village and spoke to the villagers there, and they were very concerned and all that. And they brought it, instead of hurting it or something like that, they brought it to the throne, and then they realized that it was a talking snake, an incarnation of a Naga, and then they put that snake on the jeweled throne, and that snake was on the throne when the Aztec Empire fell, actually. And the invaders, the Europeans, the invaders, and the people around that joined with them, told them about the snake on the throne and rumors of a snake on a throne, and they found the throne and the snake, and they were going to kill the snake, but a very brave and noble Aztec warrior saved the everybody that was in the throne room. Killed everyone that was in the throne room, all the invaders, and basically saved the snake, saved the Naga, and left with the Naga in a bag, and they left for the hills, and he told them, don't talk, well, you know. So they escaped at that time. And they were a little bit disappointed in the snake that they had received, because the snake they had received was a cultural snake. And even the snake was disappointed with coming as the snake of the age, with the power that he had, because he was criticized in a way, always looked at, because they had hoped that he would come as a god that could have helped save the fall of the Aztec Empire. But that isn't what was meant to be, right? It wasn't what was meant to be. So that's why he came as a snake that was not a leader, not a war snake, but as a cultural snake. So there are different abilities and specifications amongst Nagas. So Nagas have had their place and have landed and also manifest in the nature in snakes that learn to speak, right? So if you encounter a snake that speaks in the nature, it is a Naga manifestation, most likely. So there are the Nagas, right? And the Nagas were part of the Aztec culture. They sat on the jeweled throne, and there was the whole story of those snakes on the throne, right? That had landed and had come, and they just didn't have an engineer with them, unfortunately, when they landed. So they didn't advance in that way, right? But they advanced in the way of with the technology that they had, basically, and advancing a little bit just with the knowledge, basically, of a little bit basics, managed to to create their empire, basically, and create their culture and their tradition, right? Their place, to iron out their place in the world, basically, to thrive as an empire. And they thrived in many, many ways at the spiritual levels and development of creation, including the levels of becoming a god, becoming a Shri, all these different technologies that they did have. Nagas that landed initially on the royal family that had these types of technologies. What they didn't have was like physical technologies, like how to build spaceships and how to build advanced laser weapons and all these different things, all that. That's what they didn't have. So they didn't have an engineer in the science technology area when they landed on their ship, but they had other specializations of Nagas that came and brought all those specializations, including the whole spiritual dimension that they came with, which was the story of their gods, right? The story of the gods of the Nagas, right? The gods of the Tej, the gods of the Aztec, right? And there was the establishment of the whole culture of the Aztec. So in a way, the Nagas bring the story, of the Tej, bring the culture of the Tej to the Aztec people, which are the chosen people of the Tej, the chosen people of those gods, which are the Naga gods as well. So as you can see, the Nagas are part of the culture of the Aztec and the Tej as much as the culture of the Dharma, right? So you see there's a link between those snakes in the Dharma and the Tej, and you always see the snake as the thing that connects, right? The snake connects, right? And it connects the stories, just as in the Aztec pantheon, you have the feathered snakes that connect from the Mayan pantheon to the Aztec pantheon, right? So the snake is known to connect, right? To establish that connection. So you have the snakes. You have in the Aztec pantheon, you have the Nagas, right? And you had the whole lineage of the Naga lords that landed and that were established on the jeweled throne. In the history of the Aztec, their whole story of their accomplishments and the accomplishment of the Aztec is all part of their story as well, right? Because they were behind all of that, and basically they could talk and communicate, and they were the hidden hand and a little bit acting behind the emperor, right, of the human emperor that was directing the whole Aztec people and their culture. So the Nagas, right, and their importance in the story as the bringers of the story, right? The ones who come with their knowledge of the truth and their knowledge of creation stories, right? And who share it with the humans, right? And the humans who develop in culture with the Nagas who exist as well. So in the story, you have Nagas that appear out of nature, right? Nature basically gives birth to a Naga, and the Naga becomes a talking snake. So if you ever encounter a talking snake, it's a Naga, probably, okay? Or you're having a bad day and you're imagining things, but no, it's going to be a Naga if you encounter a talking snake in nature, okay? A real talking snake, physical talking snake. Very interesting snake, looks interesting, a unique snake, and it talks. It can learn your language and talk to you, right? And that's a Naga, and it has a specialization, and the Nagas come with the ages in the story, right? And it's a great boon for civilization to have a Naga, right? A talking snake, because it's an incarnation of a Naga. And there's a realm where there's many Nagas incarnations, and they do their things and have their conflicts and do their storylines, right? The Nagas are a warrior people as well, and they have their stories, right? And their places where they incarnate, right? With advanced technologies as well, such as ships that they used, including the one that the Nagas were on when they landed in the area of the Aztecs. So there's different things like that. So that's why in the Aztec history as well, on the jeweled throne, there was a story of items that were basically from the ship, items that were basically not of human manufacture or origin of this planet. So there was the Nagas on the throne, on the jeweled throne, and there was a Naga on the jeweled throne, but this one coming from nature, not from the original lineage of Nagas on the jeweled throne that was there at the time when the empire fell. And this was in a way so that the Nagas could be there in support of the people of the Aztec when their empire fell, just in there in support, so that they too would go through what fell on the Aztec people. And the Aztec people knew their fate. They knew that this was going to happen. That's why they did everything that they did, including all the sacrifices and all these things, to empower their gods, right? Through technology, through spiritual technology that they utilized. They used the blood and the sacrifices to empower their gods, so their gods would be the most powerful gods in the system, recorded in the system. with the technologies that they had. Okay, so they had very advanced technology in some fields, including spiritual technology. They had, when the initial Nagas landed on their ship, okay, in those areas, they had very advanced spiritual technology that they landed with. Okay, so they had, and they brought that to the people. Okay, what they didn't have was the science technology, an engineer Naga. For a reason, anyways. So this is the story of the first Nagas that sat on the jeweled throne of the Aztecs. The first ones. The ones who were there for the glorious parts of the Aztec Empire. Okay? And its glorious parts. Before they all died off. Okay? Because they died off. And the whole lineage of the gods that had come died off because they could not reproduce after a couple generations. So then there was time when there was no Naga on the throne, the jeweled throne, and then there was one that came from nature. Okay? So thank you for listening to this video on the Zenora channel. I hope this information was interesting to you. Have a great day.